That fancy dirt equipment coming in handy again. As you can tell, I've linked it. I didn't flip the diffs, probably an issue that I'm gonna run into now that I've mounted the motor. Should have flipped them right off the bat. I just didn't want to deal with it at the time. Luckily, motor's not perfectly set, so if I need to lift it up a 1/2 inch, I still have one last bracket to build for the 3rd motor mount. But we'll work it out. We like to do things 3 times, 4 times, just depends on my mood. Super basic overview. We're gonna break the axle down. Front axle's the most important. There's not really much other than flip the diff, break the axle down on the rear end, flip the diff. We'll end up most likely welding the rear end, so we'll make a small video on that. This one though, obviously we've got some issues with some grease, so we'll get a small rebuild kit from Trail Gear and rebuild the axle, replace rotors or pads if needed. But we'll get this broken down, flipped, and then take it to the car wash, clean it up so it's nice and clean so that when it's ready we can paint it. Have the axle all broke down. If you look inside here, you can see where it's flat. And because we're having to flip the diff, because the motor that I run and 90% of the ATV motors run clockwise, you either have to cut and turn the knuckleballs so that you can flip the diff around and run it upside down, or I'm just gonna flip the diff up and make it so it's spinning in reverse now, but now we'll be able to drive forward in 1st gear instead of reverse in 1st gear and forward in reverse gear. So I'm going to heat the diff up just a little bit and then hit it with a 2x4 as well as some metal tubing, round it out so that it clears the gears when it's flipped. I loathe the smell of gear oil. It is literally the worst smell on the face of the planet, and anytime I ever have to deal with gear oil, I just hate it. Oh, we got a fire. Whoops. Like a glove. Like a glove. Let's just put a couple in. Double check. We are not hitting. Sweet. Okay, front axle is done just about and ready to be RTV'd back on. First time I did this, it took me about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Just didn't fully know what I was doing. This time to break down the first axle took me about 25 minutes. It'll probably take me 15-20 minutes to reassemble. And then the rear axle, as long as I can get the drums off, it will be about 15-20 minutes to break the whole axle down. It's super easy when it's out of the car. It doesn't take long at all. It really doesn't take much of a skill set, just basic hand tools. So stoked about that. I'm gonna have to swap out on the junior car and the baby lizard a couple items. So I'll definitely be pulling the rear axles out of those when I do that. All right, so super excited. This has been super easy. Got the rear end taken apart, heated it up, got the diff pushed out. So now the third member clears. Gonna be welding up the spider gears on the rear end, so we're welded up. Excited to get this taken care of. One less thing on the list. Now I think we're down to about 23 items. So we'll see how fast I can bust out these other 23 items. As you can tell, it's a mess in the garage. Just every little thing just takes up so much space, but we'll get there. All right, the garage is completely cluttered up. I've got the whole project taken apart. Front axle's all welded up. Rear axle I welded up last night. Gonna get it cleaned up and painted. Get the links cleaned up and painted. Front axle cleaned up and painted as well. We're getting down to almost under 20 items now. Got a couple more things to do on the frame. Of course, the day that I decided to take it apart, it rained, so all of my welds have now rusted. Gonna be putting a bunch of little tabs in for my fuel lines, brake lines, mounts for my fuel pump. I've got to add some gussets for all my link mounts as well as my transfer case mounts, stiffen everything up, get my Harbor Freight winches all set up so that they're mounted and strong and not going to rip the frame apart when I'm pulling something. But we'll see how much I can get done this weekend. Not working on the ground, it really is nice. Harbor Freight for the win. If you need a cheap $179 fabrication table that comes with a bunch of clamps and different things, buy 3 of them.
It's not really that cheap when you buy 3.
It's still cheaper than a fabrication table is. So yeah, but now I'm not working on the ground. Here I'm trying to get some of my bracing done so that I can spend the next 3 business days grinding, polishing, getting all the rust off, because Utah got just hammered with rain. And of course, I put it outside.
Literally, rain was in the forecast.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have hope. hopes and dreams that typically fail. So yeah, but we're getting there. Axles are all painted. They look awfully wonderful. Just a few
like rusted piles of garbage.
Few bumps, bruises, scratches. Got the links painted, got the T-case mounted. Waiting on intermediate shaft to be done so that I can get the motor finally mounted. Might just do a typical chase and mount the motor and hope for the best. We'll see. But I'm happy with the progress, so. All right, so we're getting brake lines done, get the fuel lines done as well. Then we gotta work on getting the motor wired up. But it should be nice. Where are you wanting this guy? Yeah, just right below the link mount bolt. Yeah, like right there. Super stoked now. We're probably on the last time I have to pull the body off. Got the brake lines, fuel lines, gonna get that all plumbed in, get everything tack welded on or welded on for the tabs for the brake and the fuel lines. Then I can paint the chassis and hopefully not have to take the body off. So now I'm gonna be mounting my fuel pump. This fuel pump does like 1 to 4 PSI. That way I don't have to run a vacuum pump off of the ATV motor. Mount it back here. Then I have a fuel shut off that I can actually adjust how much fuel's coming into it because it doesn't have a return. We've noticed that sometimes the ATV motor gets too much fuel and it starts dumping out the overflow on the carb. So trying to figure that out to make it so it works how it needs to. Gonna be getting fuel pump in, using riv nuts to hold it in so I don't have to weld any tabs or anything on. Gonna get proportioning valve in. Gonna get the fuel lines and the brake lines all secured and mounted up. And we'll be able to hopefully not have to take the body off again. Get this painted up. Gonna go all black with everything. Still trying to decide what I'm gonna paint the body on. But hopefully keep it looking old because it is like 75 years old now. So I think it'd be kind of cool to leave it that old looking style. I think I went too big on that one. No. Bought this like 2 or 3 years ago and never could quite figure out how to use it, but luckily YouTube University came in handy. Oh, thanks, baby. So if I do it right, then the riv nut, there's not any load on it. It's just holding up a little bracket or the little fuel pump. So if it's done right and I measured right, All right, the $1 million question, did I do it right? Ooh, I don't think I did. Great.
Okay.
I don't think so. Well, bolt hole is just a tiny bit off, but we're bolted in. She's not going anywhere now. I really like this stainless steel braided stuff. It works really well. Still haven't figured out the best way though to cut it. I just use my bandsaw with a new blade on it. I don't have the fancy tools to build it, but good old crescent wrench and some lube. So it's been a couple weeks now and then I haven't put an update out. Been crazy busy at work. Started demoing a 56,000 square foot building, which is the biggest project that I've actually ever done in my entire life. So that's kind of been where my biggest focus is making sure I don't die doing that demolition. I've got the brake lines though. As you can see, I still need to mount some tabs so that I clean it up. Got the fuel lines done as well. Fuel tank is mounted. Got to drill a hole, put a fitting on, put a petcock fitting on to shut it off if I ever have to swap anything out or take the body off. Also, I got 3 drive shafts made from a local company, and pretty excited because this will complete 2 projects. One project that's not going to be seen till it's completely done, but we're moving along. Hopefully in the next couple weeks it'll be up and going. My buddy is going to end up helping me wire both rigs so that we don't have any problems with either one. But check out the other videos, like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you guys want to see kind of how I'm able to afford to build this stuff and watch kind of videos of some of the demolitions that I've done.